Well, again, welcome back to the Better Founded podcast. This is Coach McKell, the assistant men's golf coach at Baylor, joined by Coach McGraw. It's just the two of us today, Coach.
Just the two of us, but I think we've got a pretty interesting podcast and a preview of a really big event that we have coming up.
Yeah, so let's kind of recap a little bit where we're at. We're in late April, so we are just about to head up to Kansas to play the Big 12 Stroke Play Championship at Prairie Dunes Country Club in Hutchinson, Kansas.
Yeah, you're speaking my language right there. That is truly, Prairie Dunes is one of my favorite golf courses in the world, if not my favorite. So I always get excited when Prairie Dunes is on the schedule, and so I'm really looking forward to this week.
Yeah, so I think I have 4 rounds around the place, and I believe you have about 100 plus.
Well, I was thinking about that the other day. I told you 100 plus. It's slightly under 100, but counting when I was a kid growing up, my brother playing in the Trans-Miss there, just different times I've gone up there, and then competitively speaking at Oklahoma State and at Baylor now. I've been around there quite a few rounds. Yeah. Really have a lot of good memories there too.
So before we kind of get into the golf course and, some of the memories and details on the golf course, let's just do a quick recap of the Big 12 conference right now.
Yeah, I would say when you look at the Big 12 conference, year in and year out, it's been one of the strongest conferences in the country. And if you look at what teams make match play at the national championship every year, since 2011, or actually 2009, when they started match play, no conference is close to having as many teams make match play. So We know it's a great, strong conference. The University of Oklahoma ranked number 1 currently, and OSU ranked number 3, and Texas 7, and Texas Tech 17. So no conference has that many teams in the top 17. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and then we're right behind them. We've kind of had, some nice success at times this year, but we've also had some challenging times. But I feel like our team is pretty poised and ready to come up here to Kansas and have a good week. So we're at 32, I believe. We also have TCU, Kansas State, West Virginia, and Iowa State in the conference. TCU just won a big tournament out at Arizona State where we were at. Played fantastic. So competition will be tough, but what do you see from our team, Coach? I feel like we're in a pretty good spot right now with our guys.
Well, I honestly think this is the first time that we've been this healthy the entire year, counting COVID and some wrist injuries. You just name all the types of things that have happened. None of those are excuses. You have to be ready for anything like that to happen. But it's the first time when I feel like we've got 5 guys, all healthy, all ready to go, and I think they're all trending in a good way. So I'm really excited about that. And we played. The last couple of days we've practiced together. Looks good. Really excited about it. Our 5 will be Cooper Dossie, who's played, generally the number 1 man for a few years at Baylor. Colin Colbert will be number 2. Number 3 will be Ryan Greider. Number 4, Johnny Kiefer. And number 5, Mark Reppy. So I'm really excited about that. It is the 4th year in a row that we've had in postseason all 5 guys are Texas players.
Yeah.
That's pretty rare.
And we're taking a sub too, which you can sub in the Big 12 stroke play and also in the postseason for regionals and nationals, and that's Luke Dossie. That's on the road this week.
Right, and actually Luke's playing probably the best golf maybe of his life. A couple of tournaments ago at the Aggie Invitational, when he got an opportunity to play, he finished 3rd. So his game looks really good. And again, I think all 5 guys, counting Luke's 6 guys, are trending in a good direction. And, coaches feel like that, always feel like something good is going to happen. That's just hope springs eternal for coaches, and that's just what we believe. But I really do believe that. I think the team has turned the corner and headed in a good direction.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think it's powerful to choose to see good things for your guys as well. I think that kind of transcends itself in your communication and everything else. So, So our practice round is Sunday the 25th. And then the tournament starts on Monday the 26th with 2 rounds that day. The 27th will be 1 round, and then the 28th will be 1 round. So it's 4 rounds of stroke play, and looks like we're going to get some wind up there too.
Well, Prairie Dunes is known for being challenging because of the wind. It was built for wind, and I know when the wind is not blowing, it's a very gettable golf course because by modern day standards, it's not long. But it has, in my opinion, the greatest green complexes in the United States. I keep on telling people that, and people that haven't seen it say, "Oh, you're kidding me." There's a lot of courses that I have not seen a course that has better green complexes, and more interesting green complexes, and green complexes where it's really important to get in the section of the green where the hole is located. It's just amazing and just so much fun.
So let's get into the intricacies of the golf course then, because I think this podcast, we're on about episode 40, and your sister was joking that she thinks she's heard about Prairie Dunes about 7 times already on the podcast. So we know it's one of your favorites. Let's get into the kind of intricacies of the golf course, a little bit of the specifics and why it's one of your favorites.
Well, Perry Maxwell is one of my favorite golf course designers. He designed Dornick Hills in Ardmore. That was his first. He's actually buried above the 7th fairway at Dornick Hills. So, Perry Maxwell is just amazing. He's at Cherry Hills in Denver, Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. He's designed some amazing golf courses in this part of the country. And in 1937, he designed 9 holes at Prairie Dunes. And what he did was he saw all these sand dunes that were just natural there, just sand dunes. And he figured he could build a golf course, and he built 9 holes and among those sand dunes. And so he planted vegetation on the sand dunes to hold them in place so the wind wouldn't blow them to and fro. And he built a masterpiece of a golf course. I still say to this day, the second hole, which is only about 150-yard par 3, is one of the great par 3s I've ever seen or played in my life. And people would look at, how can a 150-yard hole be that great? Well, a lot of short par 3s are really, really impressive. And number 2, without a doubt, is one of my favorites. The green is so challenging, and it's built right into a dune. So anyway, it's got a great par 3 there.
Yeah.
But then about 7 or 8 times, you're elevated on the tee shot. You're on a dune, and so you got the wind blowing 20 or 30 miles an hour, and you're on this kind of high place. It's not very easy to flight your golf ball. You have to think about where you want to go. You have to know the wind direction. And it makes Prairie Dunes very exciting because, one, you're going to have to work the ball up against the wind a lot, hit a lot of stingers. You can't just throw your ball up in the air. You've got to flight it well.
Yeah, ball control is massive. And I think it's predicted to be both south and north winds, and it will completely change the place up. Absolutely every hole will be changed up. So we have a guy with tons of experience here. What are some of the best experiences at Prairie Dunes, Coach, through the years, over the years that you've been here?
Well, I remember watching my brother Tim play in the Trans-Miss when he was 13, playing against guys like Gary Koch and Craig Stadler and Ben Crenshaw, a bunch of great players, that he was only a 13-year-old kid.
Was that a Big 12 championship too, or what
no,
kind of tournament?
Trans-Miss. Trans-Miss, 1973. Okay. And my brother was a really good player, and he played at a high level as a young player. But I remember seeing that, so that was great. As far as my college golf experience at Prairie Dunes, 1998, I'll never forget this, because Prairie Dunes is built on sand dunes. So it'll take all the water you want to give it. Mm-hmm. It almost never has puddles. It doesn't puddle up. And so in 1998, it rained sideways. So it's blowing 30, and the rain is coming down all day long. So for 11 hours, we were out on the golf course in that. And I had this visual of Greg Grost, who was the golf coach at the University of Oklahoma at the time. He's talking to one of his players in the area right in front of the clubhouse, so in between 1 and 10 tee. And he's talking to him, and he's got the umbrella pointed against the wind. The wind's blowing about 30 or 35. And so he's talking to that kid, and he hears some other player on his team call him from the clubhouse. And he turns just sideways, just enough where the wind caught that umbrella, and it blew it over the clubhouse. It literally took it out of his hands over the clubhouse, and that was one umbrella that died that day.
You guys were playing in that?
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was crazy. And a guy from the University of Oklahoma, Hunter Haas, won the tournament. And I remember thinking to myself, he just won a battle, because it was absolutely impossible to flight your golf ball that day. The wind was blowing. You had I don't think we had good rain gloves in those days. Yeah. So the clubs were flying out of kids' hands. You only had one area on the golf course that puddled up, and the rest of it took all that water. It was all day long. Wow. It was a rough day. So I remember that pretty well.
So I do have a little bit of preview of some of these stories. So I know weather is going to be a theme at Prairie Dunes. What is your next memory from Prairie Dunes?
Yeah, weather always plays a little bit of a part. But in 2000, Charles Howell was in the middle of playing some of the best golf. I think he was 50 under par that spring, and he won like a lot of golf tournaments. He played very, very well. But in this tournament, he shot 66 on the 36th hole day. He was leading by 4 or 5, played really, really well. It was relatively calm. It probably didn't blow more than 10 to 12 miles an hour that day. Well, the third round, the final round in those days, at 54 holes in those days, the wind was blowing 35 miles an hour. And so Prairie Dunes at 35 miles an hour, that's a good test. And he shot the most beautiful 68 you've ever seen. He ended up winning by 10 shots.
Wow.
And that kind of spurred Charles on to, he won the Maxwell by 6, and he ended up winning the national championship by 8. Mm-hmm. So it's like he just dominated the rest of the season, but it started right there. He was already playing well, but that tournament kind of spurred him on, and he won big time. So he led us to a title that day as well.
Is that typical for the players that have performed the best over the years, you think? Like, Charles Howell is obviously a great ball striker. Is that what it takes around there, or what do you think?
You mentioned earlier being able to ball control is really important. So I think a ball striker is an advantage, but honestly, a guy that keeps the slopes facing him, a guy that has really, really creative short game. So you can hit all kinds of shots around these greens. You can putt up the slope. You can bump it into the hill. You can hit a lob shot. But I would like to keep slopes facing me. Mm-hmm. And so a guy that can do that is probably a pretty good ball striker because he knows where to leave his golf ball, but then also has the ability to get the ball up and down. Charles was a really good putter, but he was an incredible ball striker. And so he just kind of had a control of the ball that week, and it was pretty easy. And Edward Lohr finished runner-up, but 10 shots back. So that was it was quite a victory for Charles. But, some of the other memories I have, I remember in the odd years, 2007, 2009, 2011, and 2013. And you played in that one in 2013, so we're going to talk about that one. But in 07, 09, and 11, really extreme weather conditions those years. I mean, cold and windy, and some years rainy. And, we were able to win all 3 of those championships, but just a battle. It was really, really tough. And some people would say, well, why do you want to go there if it's... I love tough weather conditions. Mm-hmm. I love it when you know that it's going to take some toughness, some resilience, where it's not going to be just a free-for-all, where a guy that's really tougher, a guy that's really controlling his mind and the way he's thinking, he's going to be an advantage. Yeah. And all 3 of those years, it was really tough. But
the best team's going to win for sure.
You would think so. Most of the time. But let's talk about 2013 because you actually played that tournament at Baylor and I was at Oklahoma State at the time. Yeah,
that's one of the strangest golf tournaments I've ever been a part of. I obviously also love Prairie Dunes. I fell in love with the place during the practice round. This would have been my sophomore year. So I remember very well, we were staying in a Holiday Inn up in Hutchinson, and I was rooming with Filippo Zucchetti. So we're an Italian and a Norwegian in Hutchinson. And we get off to kind of a slow start to the tournament. And I'm playing with Abraham Answer of University of Oklahoma. And you're playing twosomes in the Big 12 stroke play. So it's just me and Abraham. And Ryan Hibble, the OU golf coach, is walking with Abraham that round. And we get to a point where the wind is absolutely switching. It blew 20 out of one way, and it switched. And I can't remember which way it switched to. But all of a sudden, it was gusting to 40 out of the...
It was the north.
Trust
me, I was on the 9th green.
The complete different way. And this kind of escalates over 5 or 10 minutes. And so we're playing hole 6. And I think we're playing it straight downwind now for some reason. Anyways, we get up on the green, and... the memory I have is I have a 5-footer down the hill, breaking left to right, and the ball cannot lay still. Like, it's shaking. I can't stand still over the ball. I'm going all the way, all over the place. And I back off the putt like twice. And when I backed off the second time, Ryan Hibble said, "Hey, stop, just back off. We're not playing." Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really cool because he had my back. Like, it was completely unfair conditions at this point. And go ahead.
And well, if I was going to say from my point of view, we teed off first in the first wave, and you guys were in the wave behind us. So I was at Oklahoma State. And I get to the 9th green, which was our 36th hole with our 5-man. and it's dead calm. I mean, it was really not blowing.
It was calm for a few minutes, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that wind started blowing out of the north at 40 to 45 miles an hour. And I'm thinking, okay, I've got a guy on 9T, on 8 fairway, 8T, and 7 green. Oh, my gosh. Now, those guys have to get these last 2.5 holes in, you know.
Yeah.
And sure enough, but then I thought about it again. Oh, there's a wave behind us. Those guys aren't liking life very much right now. And the truth is, Ryan Hibble was right. I think they waited a little too long to call it for the day, and our guys were able to finish, and we finished all 5 guys. But we played a little too long in a 50-mile-an-hour wind, north wind. It was
we definitely did, and I thought that was cool. You know, a coach from another school having my back said, "Hey, you're not hitting that putt. We're standing right here waiting," and they blew it. And then the next day, we woke up to snow. And my Italian roommate, Filippo, was watching TV shows all day on his computer. And
they didn't let us play that day.
Basically, I came out, waited almost 48 hours to hit that 5-footer. So,
did you make it?
I think so.
Okay.
Since I can't remember, I would think I made it.
Yeah, good putter.
I don't know.
You probably made it.
Probably so. But that is my memory.
So you guys had to come out and finish that wave. And then we
finished that round probably.
Yeah, didn't repair. We just kept playing, and I remember the University of Texas won. They beat us by a shot that day, and it was a good finish. But the weather was reasonable that day. It was cold, but it wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
So
then we get past 2013 and that weather stuff, and then we get to probably your best memory from Prairie Dunes, 2014.
Definitely a good memory. I had been let go at Oklahoma State, so I was at Alabama as an assistant, and I remember Taylor Gooch told me later, and he told me this in a podcast, that the moment that I got let go, that he said, "Oh my gosh, it's tough losing our coach, but what's going to end up happening is we're going to play them in the national championship next year when he's at Alabama in the finals." And at the first tournament of the season that fall when I was at Alabama, we were playing Olympia Fields with Oklahoma State in one of the rounds, and I talked to Ian Davis, who was a player at Oklahoma State, and I said, "Ian, I enjoyed walking with you today. Let's make it a date in Prairie Dunes. Let's play the final round together. It's a date, Coach. We'll do it." And sure enough, it happened. But
it's just crazy how you guys met in the final.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't, I wasn't expecting that as an outcome. But when I saw we were on one bracket when we made match play and they were in the other, I thought, I guess that's possible. It could happen now. And But the interesting thing about that tournament that most people won't remember is the tournament was supposed to start on a certain day. It rained the entire day. Could not get on the golf course. You could not get out there. Storms. And so the next day, half of the day was out. So it was a day and a half before the first wave of the tournament got to tee off. And we were in the last wave. So we ended up having to play. They played their round that day, the first wave did. And the following day, that second wave had to play 36 holes.
Wow. So you didn't play the first 2 days?
We didn't play. Yes, we did not.
Oh,
no,
wow.
We did not. They didn't even get to start until halfway through the first wave didn't get to start. So the tournament really didn't start for almost 2 days after it was supposed to start. And so they ended up canceling the fourth round of stroke play and bumped it back to a 54-hole cut to match play. And because you lost that whole day, so it was gone. And then they were trying to keep on track for the television that was already contracted
for match play.
What
did Alabama finish in stroke play?
Third in stroke play. It was, there were some great teams that year. I remember Stanford was one of the teams that played really well. Oklahoma State played well. But you could see we were in opposite brackets, so I thought, okay, that might happen. But I really didn't honestly expect that it would.
Yeah.
And we ended up being, we beat SMU in the first match, and we beat LSU in the second match. And then, so that sent us to the finals. And Oklahoma State won a really hard-fought battle with Stanford. And Taylor Gooch played Maverick McNeely. And they went to the 21st hole, and Taylor made about a 35-footer to send Oklahoma State to the final. And so now here I'm going to walk the final, match as an assistant coach, but against Alan Bratton, who was my assistant coach all those years. And JC will did actually. I'm gonna give Jay a little credit here because I'd been walking most of the year with Trey Mullinax, and you could tell in stroke play Trey and I were getting a little flat. It was just. He was probably tired of hearing what I had to say. And I think maybe I'd just spoken to him too often. And he said, "Coach McGraw, I've got an idea." "What's that?" He said, I think I want to walk with Trey in match play. I said, okay, great. Who do you want me to walk with? And he said, Robbie Shelton. I said, that's fine with me. And I was just a cheerleader for Robbie that week at Prairie Dunes. He got 2 down in every match. He was 2 down in every match. And the final match, he played what I consider to be one of the great. And earlier in the podcast, we did 5 best rounds I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me after we did number 1 that I probably have a +1 here. This is the best round I ever saw. Was Robbie Shelton playing Zach Olson. And Zach was the player I never got to coach, but I had recruited him to Oklahoma State. And
so this is during the final.
During the final.
Yeah.
And they made 22 threes in that match. 22 threes. The USGA looked at, they had never seen a match play event where they had 22 threes. Zach shot 64, great round of golf, and Robbie shot 63 to beat him there at Prairie Dunes.
Won it on 18?
Won it on 18, and Jay Sewell always has this, because I'm not as excitable as Jay. I'm pretty, I'm pretty straightforward if you think about it. And you are a pretty calm guy too.
Sure.
But Jay said he looked at it after we got home back to Tuscaloosa. He was watching the replay, and he said, Robbie buries this putt to win the match, and I just put the flag stick in calmly and shook hands with everybody and walked off the green like it was. And Jay, if you've seen the reaction he had when Trey Mullinax made that putt,
yeah.
I mean, Jay and I just reacted differently. And I always tell Jay, I said, well, the way I look at it is I expected us to win our match, and you apparently didn't expect to win your match. But it was that memory was great. But very bittersweet because we were there in the awards ceremony, and they kind of somehow or another positioned me as far left on the Alabama team. So I was in between Alabama and the Oklahoma State players, and all 10 players I had either coached or recruited.
And here are all the players that you've coached this year at Alabama, and then all the players that you recruited and coached in the past on your right.
Yeah, I'm not sure a coach. I was thinking about it as the award ceremony was going by, and I was thinking, I know I'll probably never get to experience something like this again, ever, where you're literally coaching in the finals of the national championship against a team that you coached and recruited all for years, and then coaching the current team. And so as much as I loved Alabama winning that day, I shed some tears for the Oklahoma State kids because I really was close to them.
Yeah.
So good memory, though.
I remember watching it on TV. But, okay, this podcast episode is dropping Monday morning of the 36-hole day. So not a lot of other teams and coaches are going to get all the insight and stuff of Prairie Dunes that you have. So you've talked about it's important to have the slopes facing you and the impact of the wind can have out there. Give us one more tidbit of the course. It could be a specific hole or whatever where you have a little coaching point.
Right. Well, I mean, I think a lot of times the angles you take, because of the direction of the wind, it's like number 13. If you've got a little wind help, you can bomb it down there about 40, 50 yards from the green. But if you've got any wind hurt, you do not challenge the bunkers. And so it changes completely kind of the look of the hole, and it could be just a little bit of wind change. And the wind does change a lot during the day, like you said, that one year where it flipped completely. If a front comes through, so you've got to be careful with that. I think that flighting your golf ball is really important. They've got one hole, number 15. You remember number 15?
With the chute right
with
there.
With the chute. And if you can't flight your ball up against a left to right wind or a right to left wind, if you can't work it against that wind, you certainly can't start it way offline. You've got to start it in the middle of that chute.
Because it's a shoot in crosswind, no matter what.
And every time it's going to be a crosswind. So it's one of the more challenging shots because you have to absolutely thread the needle through a chute of trees, and it's going to move your ball unless you can work your ball up against the wind. So that's pretty important. You don't. Honestly, one thing people don't think about at Prairie Dunes, there's plenty of room for your golf ball on these fairways in the rough. It's pretty generous. But if you miss on the wind or you let the wind have your golf ball, you're going to end up in those sand dunes. And that's just sand with vegetation, so the ball does vary. So it's a pretty challenging situation. I don't think they've burned the rough this year. A lot of times they burn the rough to kind of control it. But I think it's all pretty healthy this year. So I'm really excited. They had snow there last week, so which is kind of crazy. But overseeded rye, it's going to be in perfect shape. The greens, to me, are some of the best because they're just, the complexes are so unusual and unique, and you just have to get it in the right spots. And you can putt it off the 12th green in a heartbeat. And it pins Pins on the right side there, just near that false side. And if you just putt a little too far, you're off down into the collection area. Julie Inkster, who won the Women's U.S. Open there, she putted it off that green in 2004 or whenever they had that event there. So just little nuances like that are kind of interesting. And they can move some tee boxes around. Like I think on 12, they'll move the tee down one day.
Yep.
You can drive it on the green.
Yeah. I remember them doing that actually, 2013.
Yeah, you can drive it on the green. But again, wind direction means everything. And I think that like 18, 18, you literally get the correct wind. You can drive it right up into the greenside bunker or on the green. And then other days, it's like just fit it in there somehow and try to flight your 6 irons and try to make a par. I watched a kid one time there years and years ago. Wind was blowing about 35. And he missed 10 consecutive greens. So it was the last 5 greens of the morning round and the first 5 greens of the afternoon round. He missed 10 consecutive greens. On 7 of those 10 greens, he missed the green with his chip shot. So now the kids aren't going to hear this. They've heard none of these stories prior to the tournament.
Yeah.
And they won't hear it. But yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. No. Cool. I think we all agree we're really looking forward to it. If you want to follow, you can find it on GolfStat. I'm sure most of the listeners will know how to find that. All the conference championships are going on all around the country, and after that, it's regional selection.
That's May 5th.
May 5th. We'll see where we're going. Play in the middle of May, and then hopefully qualify for nationals out of Greyhawk, which, by the way, we did get to play when we were out there for Arizona State's tournament. So it's kind of fast and furious from here to get to the start of the summer for us.
It is, and that's the exciting part about it. That's why you work all year long. You want to play in postseason. It's not that the other tournaments aren't important, but this is what people remember. And
this is super exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Yeah. But I want to say something else that's pretty exciting that we haven't announced on the podcast or anything, and that is a really special honor for you that you received recently, and that is this year you're going to serve as the Assistant Palmer Cup Captain. Really, really happy for you there. I know that's just a great experience. So.
Yeah, I was really, really excited, really pumped. So I'm obviously from Norway, so I'll be representing the international team and working with JC Deacon. He's from Canada, and he's the head coach at the University of Florida. And on the women's side, there are a couple coaches, and the assistant is Diana, who's the head coach at Maryland, who was at Baylor when I was at Baylor. So just super excited to get a team together and hopefully provide an awesome week for all those players.
And Ryan Black, my former assistant who's now at Louisville, he was the Palmer Cup captain 3 years ago. He said it was one of the great experiences of his career. And when I was the Palmer Cup captain in 2007, without question, one of the best honors of my career. You're going to love this experience. And by the way the United States got whipped this last one, they just got whipped. So you guys are probably the favorites.
Yeah, we have a lot of good women players, and men too, but especially on the women's side, I think is where we made our hay last time in December. But no, I'm super honored, and I'm really, really excited to get to the Palmer Cup and see how much I can learn and just soak up the experience myself. But the most important part will be just to provide an awesome experience for all the players, men and women, and it'll be really, really exciting.
Yeah, that's great. So that'll be just right after the national championship, about a week or so after that.
That's right.
And then we get into recruiting, which is going to be fast and furious. We just found out this week, we're both very excited about this, and that is that the NCAA has opened up and taken off the recruiting ban. We opened up June 1st again. So I know coaches in the Division I level are really excited about getting out and seeing players, and so we're looking forward to that. But what we have between now and then is also very exciting.
Yeah, it feels like, there's a full season left for us until we get to the summer. But we did want to talk a little bit about the June 1st thing, because we know there are a lot of people listening that, are involved in junior golf and whatnot. And so we're really excited to get on the road. We'll be in and around Texas mostly, but we'll also be everywhere and anywhere. So expect to see us, and we'll be wearing the BU logo here and there.
Yeah, and then one other thing we're going to do is we're going to have some elite camps this summer. So they're not scheduled yet, but that's our goal. You can't have camps unless you can be on the road recruiting as well. So then they're going to open the camps up again this summer.
Yeah, we're working through that, but camps will open up. But we want you guys to follow our social media accounts. You know, we are both on social media on Twitter and Instagram. Your handle, Coach, is Bear Coach McGraw. Mine is ncaagolf. But also follow Baylor M Golf on both places, because if we do post anything about camps, you'll find it on there. So.
That's great. Well, I'm like you, excited about this week. Really pumped. Can't wait to get up to Prairie Dunes. It's, again, I'll say it one more time, it's my favorite place in golf.
Yeah.
So,
well, that will be it for this time. Enjoy this episode here. Hopefully the listeners get something out of it. Follow us on GolfStat and Sick and Bears, and we'll be back next week, huh?
thanks, Mikkel.
Yeah, thanks, Coach.